Virginia was the largest state in the Confederacy. And Lee aside, a lot of the principal military officers in the Confederacy, including some of those who fought in the West, Joseph Johnston, for example, came from Virginia. So there would have been important strategic objectives in Virginia. Richmond, of course, was the major industrial center for the Confederacy as well. And that would have been true whether or not the capital was Richmond. So there still would have been a focus on Virginia. It would not have been as much of a focus on Virginia. I think you're probably right that Lee's influence over Confederate strategy, which, by the way, derived primarily from his success in those major campaigns, starting with the 7 Days, would have still been fairly strong, but probably not as strong as if the capital had not been in Richmond. I think that's a very interesting suggestion. I've always, on this issue, it's a little bit separate from your question, but this issue of where the Confederate capital should be and why Richmond, I've always asked people who raise that question, well, where do you think it ought to have been? New Orleans was the largest city. It of course was captured very early in the war, April 1862. I think the reason the Confederates put the capital in Richmond is because Virginia was so important to them and so important in symbolic as well as substantive sense. I mean, George Washington was from Virginia, Thomas Jefferson was from Virginia, the kind of great, the people that the Confederacy put on its great seal and on its coins and on its money were mostly Virginians. And the prestige of Virginia as having been the kind of foremost state in the South in the Revolution, where most of the founding fathers came from, that had a lot to do with the decision to put the capital in Richmond, I think. But I think you make an interesting suggestion about the way in which Confederate strategy, and especially Lee's influence on that strategy, might have been quite different if Richmond had not been the capital.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.